the way we'll do this, Coach Stock will bring him up, who have opening comment, and then we'll open it up for questions. And Derek here from my office will bring around the microphone. So to talk about his 10th class, I'd like to bring up head coach Rick Stockstill.
Good deal. Appreciate everybody being here. It's an exciting day for everybody. I said it earlier today. A lot of hard work goes into signing a class, and there's a lot of people within our program that touch this recruiting class. And I'd like to thank those people. And just our coaches did a phenomenal job. They worked extremely hard in putting this class together. Chris Matuzik, Brent Brock, Brandon Lawson, these guys, kind of behind-the-scene guys, Courtney Gaucher, Keith Bunch, did a phenomenal job, and I'd just like to thank them for everything they did, because not one person, not one group puts a class together. So I know I'm probably leaving people out, and I apologize for that, but just want to thank everybody for that. Recruiting is I'm not going to sit up here and, say this guy is this and that, because you'd never know. And I told the guys, these recruits, and talking to them this week, that this has been their lifelong dream, to get a Division I college scholarship or to go somewhere and play college ball. And this needs to be the beginning, not the end for them. And, so they've got to go to work and make sure they don't let that piercing sound keep them from accomplishing their goals. But, it doesn't matter how many stars they have. It doesn't matter, all that kind of stuff. What matters is how hard they work from this point forward, how hard they compete, and how dedicated they are to being the best they can be. But I really like this class. I think there's a lot of talented players in it. Every coach is going to stand up here today and tell you that they met their needs, and I feel like we met our needs. If we came up short in an area, it's probably linebacker. I would have liked to have signed 3 linebackers there, and we got 2, but we got 2 really good ones. But I like everything else about them. I think we've got some guys, some older guys. We got 5 guys that came in at midterm, 4 junior college guys, or 3 junior college guys, a transfer, and then a high school player. And all those guys, with the exception of Itavius, because he's got to sit out this year, being able to go through spring practice will be a tremendous advantage for them. I think we got bigger, in the offensive line. I think we got what we were looking for from a speed and size, length standpoint on the defensive side, especially at corner. We're a little bit bigger there than what we were. We signed, 3 guys and maybe even a 4th that can be over there at play corner, because we lost a bunch of corners last year. So looking forward to those guys getting here and seeing what they can do. I think there's speed in the skill positions, and then we got some guys, like I said, at linebacker and defensive end that I think will have an impact on our defense. And I said earlier we needed to sign a punter because we lost ours, and I feel good about the punter that we signed. So excited about it, look forward to coaching them. But now it's time to them. They've got to do the work, put in the time and everything to be able to reach their goals, what they want to accomplish.
It seemed really down the stretch you guys got really aggressive in trying to land some additional commitments. You kind of touched on it in your statement earlier that you guys were kind of expecting to sign around 2021 coming into the year, ended up with 24. Talk a little bit about that aggression towards the end of the stretch.
Well, I don't think there was such a long period between the dead period and the contact period when it can start. There was almost 4.5 weeks from when it ended in December to when it started back up in January. That's a long time not being able to see a kid. That's a long time for guys for you guys not to hear recruiting stuff. You know, it's nothing going on. You can call them once a week on the phone, and that's it. So, I said it on our website here this afternoon. O'Shea Bridges, who's a defensive end for us, called me, you know, right there in the first week of January that he can graduate this spring. He's already been offered a job in his field, so he's going to graduate this spring and take that job in May and not come back for his 5th year. So that opened another slot. So that got us to 22. You know, and we signed 24. So obviously we're 2 over right now. You know, but I just, for lack of a better word, I didn't want to get cherry picked and come up short. And you know, so, but those numbers usually have a way of working themselves out. But I don't think we were any more aggressive towards the end. We were still going at. We didn't start looking for new players to recruit. You know, we had our list of guys up there, our wish list, so to speak, from back in the summer. You know, and we continue to recruit those guys, and you take guys off after you evaluate them. And but that board didn't change a whole lot. We didn't add many names, if any, the month of January.
A couple of the guys you signed, Upton and West particularly, are coming off some pretty serious knee injuries. What, if anything, do you know about their rehab process, how they're coming along? Yeah,
when they came here on their visits, our people, you know, Keith looked at them and our doctors and, you know, said they're good. I mean, they're on schedule. I don't know if I'd say they're ahead of schedule. I don't know if, you know, you can look at somebody who you just met and say they're ahead of schedule, but everything looked like they were doing what they needed to do to give themselves a chance to be able to run this summer and this fall.
Touching again on guys like West, he was pretty highly touted coming out of his junior year, was getting SEC offers, Mississippi State, a couple others. You guys kind of made some inroads early with guys like him and some others in the group too. Talk about how important it is to kind of establish that groundwork and building that frame up with these guys who are pretty highly touted to where you can be in the mix with some of these, you know, SEC echelon type programs towards the end.
You know as well as I do, recruiting is about relationships. You have to develop a relationship with these guys. You have to be an octopus where your tentacles touch everybody that can touch that kid, whether it's the mom, the aunt, the uncle, the barber, the funeral home director, the preacher, whoever it is. Anybody that's got their hand on that kid, you've got to know about it. And you've got to be able to have a relationship with that family. You have to build that trust, you know, with that family, with that kid, that young man you're recruiting. So that's where it all starts. And like I said earlier, our coaches did a great job of building and establishing those relationships. And, you know, a lot of people throw offers out there, you know, and, you know, but you find good players, you recruit them, and you recruit them until they tell you no. And some of them told us no, and some of them didn't. And we stuck with them and did a good job finishing the deal with them.
One of the recurring themes with this class is you guys signed a few guys who really can play multiple positions, a lot of the athletes, so to speak, play running back, receiver, can play on defense. Just talk a little bit about you know, getting these guys and how important it is to, you know, find these type of players versus somebody who's specific to just one position.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I wish they'd go back to high school when you played football, baseball, basketball. I wish you'd do it all because I think it helps you compete year-round. You develop different skills playing basketball. You develop different skills playing baseball that helps you as an overall athlete. So, you know, these guys that can play, you know, wide receiver and defensive back, it's only going to make them a better football player. Same thing with, you know, whether you're an offensive lineman and you play defensive line. A lot of times, in my history, the best running backs or the best corners usually played running back in high school. The skill sets are very similar, and you go back and you look at, you know, just the guys that we had here. You know, Alex Suber, one of the better corners we've had was a running back, and Rod Isaac was a running back, and Sammy Seamster was a wide receiver in high school. Kenneth Gilstrap, same thing, was a running back in high school. And so I think there's a correlation to the more things you can do on a football field enables you to be a better player, whatever position we end up finding a home for you.
Last thing for me, touching back on the offensive line. A few years ago, I was running through some old signing day stuff that we'd done. And about 2008, 2009, we were talking about offensive linemen. And you guys traditionally then were signing guys about 260, 265 pounds. And you thought that was important to get these guys who are a little bit lighter on their feet, maybe a little bit faster, can move with the offense a little better. Over the years now, we've seen the shift of these big monsters, so to speak. DeAndre Ford is a beast of a man at 18 years old. Talk a little bit about how the game has changed from the offensive line perspective, particularly with your guys' offensive system. You guys haven't really changed much over the years, but you guys are developing and bringing in bigger linemen compared to years past.
Yeah, well, and I'll say this, and hesitate a little bit, preface it. I don't mean this in any kind of negative way, but 5 or 6 years ago, whatever you said, our recruiting has elevated. 5 or 6 years ago, that might have been all we could. We were building this program. That was year 2 or year 3. And we were trying to establish ourselves, and maybe that 260-pounder was all that would look at us. And so I think that's part of it. I think Conference USA to Sun Belt is part of it. I think now you're looking at 5 or 6 years. To me, it's amazing how fast, how big kids are today. And, to me, it changes every year. But when you throw in 5 or 6 years ago, DeAndre is only 17 anyway. So that's a long time, and just I don't know what's in the water, but guys are just getting bigger, they're getting stronger, they're getting faster at every position, and you got backs now that are 240 pounds running 4.5, and just it's I just think high school coaches doing a great job. It's they're providing better weight programs for them. So a lot of the credit has to go to the high school coach and how they're developing their guys. But I just think guys are more athletic now. They 300 pounds, and you go to a high school game. It's if you're not 300 pounds, it's hard for you to play at your high school. I mean, just guys are so big now.
I know he's not going to play this year, but how big a get was Itavius Mathers coming here to play?
I think it's a big deal. Again, and I know Itavius probably from the papers, reading about him in the paper better than I do in person, because we've been gone the month of January. I just saw him a little bit ago in the weight room. I think he's got a wonderful personality. He's got a smile on his face. He's happy. Obviously, he's a good player, and I think he's going to be able to get everything out of his last year of ball that he'd hoped to get out of it here.
What do you hope that he? I guess what are your expectations for him that he can't play this next year?
Like I said, I'm still learning him. Figuring him out a little bit, so to speak. But he's got to fit in which he has, and just, the same. He's got to practice like he's going to be the starting tailback tomorrow, and every day, because you can't, even if you're a freshman, these guys that we signed that we redshirt, they can't say, well, I'm going to take this year off and I'm going to redshirt that I'm going to get going when the spring comes. You can't take off that much time. Itavius can't take off this spring. Itavius can't take off this upcoming fall, or he's not going to be able to play here next year. So he's got to approach this as a way to get bigger, more physical, work on his weaknesses, whatever he has, and improve. And so but I'll expect him to bust his tail and work as hard as he can like he's the starting tailback.
Just what are you, before you look to 2016, I know you'll start that probably tomorrow if you haven't already, but what are you feeling right now?
Well, there's always that sense of relief, especially, you know, we had a hairy little moment here last night, this morning, you know, with a couple guys, but, you know, we were able to hang on to them. And, you know, the sad part about recruiting is when you have your guys committed, you think you're going to sign, and then you lose one on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning, that tends to damper your enthusiasm, your whole outlook on the class, and it shouldn't be that. And the good thing about this, you know, we got everybody that we went to bed with last night thinking we were going to get in the morning. And so there's that sense of relief that we got everybody. There's that sense of relief that you filled your needs, and you filled them with some really, really good players. You know, and then now it's you just, as a coach, you've got to make them understand how critical these next 5 months are for them before they get here, and how hard they have to work. So there's that feelings, and then just, you know, I'm just proud of our staff, how hard they worked. You know, the relentlessness that they showed, you know, during this, you know, especially the last 2 months, especially the last 3 weeks. But like you said earlier, it's a culmination of a year's work. So I'm really, really satisfied. A feeling of satisfaction, I guess, might be a better appropriate word with the class we put together.
How hard is it to know what these, you mentioned you made it through today with everybody you went in with last night when you went to sleep. How hard is it to know what an 18-year-old kid in today's world is thinking on a day-to-day basis?
If you can figure it out and put it in a bottle, you'll be a millionaire. And it's you know, there's so many people that touch these guys now. There's so much social media, Twitter, Instagram, all this stuff. There's so many things that young people, you know, look at, they read, people talk to them about this, go here, go there, you know, and it's this year there's, you know, not us, you know, everybody, there's so many people that decommitted, you know, commit here, decommit, went somewhere else, commit here, commit there, and just I probably said it last year and I've forgotten, but there was a bunch of that this year. So there's so much pressure on these young guys today, these young people that they're pulled in so many different directions that I learned a long time ago, verbal commitment's not worth the paper it's written on. And just because he commits, you can't relax. You got to keep working. You got to keep recruiting him like he hasn't been committed. So you just got to do it till that paper comes across the fax machine.
You mentioned you lost a lot of pass rushers last year, Leighton and Schubert and a couple others. I'm going to start with Peter Bailey, the JUCO guy. Obviously, you've told me before, when you get a JUCO guy, you want him to contribute immediately. That's why you're giving him the scholarship. What does he bring to your defense when he gets on campus? Well,
he's older. You know, he's been out of high school 2 years. He's played the junior college 2 years. He's had success. So his body is more developed than a high school player. His experience level is higher than a high school player. He's got good size, so he brings a maturity factor to you at that position. And, we got a couple guys coming off surgeries at defensive end. So that was probably defensive end and corner were probably the two highest needed positions on defense, then followed by linebacker. So Peter, we're expecting him, immediately to come in, and we'll give him a shot and see if he can help us.
Offensive line, you also mentioned them, big group. What is maybe an overall theme of those four guys that will be playing up front on offense for you?
I think the big thing, they're bigger guys, but they're really athletic. I think they've all got really good feet, especially to be as big as they are. I think they move. They've got good balance. They can bend. You don't hear. They use their hands well. They can. You don't hear that much with an offensive lineman, but they've got good hands, and I think they're smart. I think they could, play multiple positions up front there, whether center or guard or tackle. So I think it's a very versatile group, and it's a very athletic group. I thought Jeep did a nice job in evaluating those guys and getting them here.
Which one of the four has the best chance? I know you're bringing a lot on the offensive line back, so you may not have to play them all, but which one of the four maybe has most likely chance to be on the field the first?
Will, I can't answer that, and just that they'll decide that. They'll decide that. They'll get in here and who can ever contribute, learn the most, the quickest, will have a chance. But it's too early to say that. They hadn't even graduated from high school yet. I'm not, ready to say that they're ready to, to play here, as a freshman. We'll see once they get here. But they're talented enough that they're all good players, and they're going to be able to help us.
At quarterback, only the one. Of course, you have the two coming back. I know that it'll be a competition, but what about John? A little bit about what he could bring in a couple years down the road when it's his turn.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. Got to get, he's got to put a little bit of weight on, obviously, but all of them do. All young high school kids do. He throws the ball good. He's got a good release. I think he's accurate with the football, so, and I think he's probably a better runner than, what if people are saying he's a pocket passer. I think he's probably a better runner, a better athlete than what people, if they're saying that about him, would give him credit for.
At corner, you mentioned it was one of the needs. They all have a theme. They're all bigger than your typical corner. Was that a priority to get bigger, stronger, faster corners, to be cliche with it, I guess?
Yeah, well, you're right. And, Khalil, he's here now. He got here in January, so he'll be able to go through spring practice. I think receivers are getting bigger. The jump ball is becoming more of a weapon for offenses, the back shoulder throw, all that kind of stuff that I think, people are looking for bigger, longer corners. And, so we really tried to make that an emphasis in our evaluation process this year of who we were going to recruit. And that was definitely one of them. So they can all run. They're all good athletes. But I think the theme there, they're bigger than, that what we've had the last couple years.
Last one for me. Where does this class, as you stand here on signing day, put it in perspective versus your first two classes in Conference USA the last couple years? You feel like you're potentially benefiting from being in the better league, now that you guys are in it, full swing, and, you've got these classes that have been recruited to Conference USA, whereas in the past they were being recruited to, the Sun Belt level?
Well, there's no question that Conference USA, recruiting with Conference USA on your chest has helped us. And you look at it, we've lost fewer and fewer players the last couple years the closer we got to signing date. And I think part of the reason is being in Conference USA as compared to what we were in the Sun Belt. Where does this class stack up and the other ones? Like I say, ask me in 2 years.
I guess, do you feel like you're getting better talent? Do you feel like you're picking from better players maybe are some of those recruits recognizing Middle for what it's been able to do in Conference USA the last couple of years, so in effect it's kind of raising your talent pool too?
Yeah, I'm not going to say we're getting better recruits, because to me that's a slap in the face to our current players, and I'm not going to do that because we've got good players. This team is, or this class is talented. Maybe I'll answer your question. Being in Conference USA has enabled us to recruit guys that we might not normally have had a chance to recruit when we were in the Sun Belt. But last year's class, as they develop, I really think they're going to be a special group there. And this group here that we signed, as they develop, I think they're going to turn into a special group also.